Chapter 8. Eddie's Thumb. Eddie found this story when she was looking up football scores the next day. Caroline had only half believed Wally Hatford's story about the Abaguchi, but if a newspaper printed a story like that, it was true, wasn't it? They talked about it at breakfast. Did you see this? Eddie asked, showing this story to her father. Clyde Downs and his wife wouldn't lie, would they? Remember that when you're frightened, you can think you saw things that really weren't there, Mother said. You might see a mountain lion up in the hills, but around here it would be pretty unusual. Caroline looked about wearily. I thought it was just some animal people saw out in the woods. I didn't know it actually came in people's yards. Beth's eyes were as big as fried eggs. Think what a wonderful book that would make, she breathed. The Age of the Abaguchi, the Abaguchi Stalks, the Abaguchi's Revenge. But Caroline was not interested in books about Abaguchis. She wondered what it would be like to be an actress in such a movie. Just suppose she was this young girl in a big house all by herself, and it's getting dark outside and she's forgotten to lock the doors. Maybe she's reading a book and she hears a noise on the front porch. She puts down the book and waits and listens, and finally she realizes she hasn't locked the side door, so she gets up in the darkened room and goes to the side door. She puts both hands up on her eyes and peers through the glass, and there, right on the other side of the glass, only inches away, are two red eyes staring right back at her. Caroline wrapped her arms around herself and shivered. She imagined being given that role in a movie. How she would clutch her throat and scream. Or perhaps she realized she hadn't locked the side door, and just as she got to it, it swung open wide, and there was this horrible creature in it. Or maybe she would get up and go lock the door, but meanwhile, unknown to her, the Abaguchi had crept around and come in the back, so that when she was locking the side door, the Abaguchi crept up behind her and grabbed her by the throat, and Caroline made gurgling sounds. Are you all right, Caroline? Her dad asked. Drink a little prune juice. I was attacked, said Caroline. By what? An Abaguchi came in and grabbed me by the throat. Oh, for goodness sakes, Caroline. I just wanted to know what it would feel like if one did get in the house and did creep up behind me and did put its claws around my neck. If that happened, my dear, you would not make another sound for the rest of your life. If you would like to practice not making another sound for the rest of your morning, I wouldn't mind at all. The afternoon was overcast and chilly, but Eddie talked Beth and Caroline into going to the field behind the college to practice her batting and pitching. It wasn't Caroline's favorite way to spend a Sunday, and Beth had her nose in the book all the way there. But when one of the sisters needed something, the others usually came through. What I need is for someone to pitch to me and the other to stand in the outfield. After that, I need to practice my pitching. Whatever, said Beth, and almost stepped off the bank of the river. Caroline had to guide her onto the swinging bridge and make sure she got off the other end all right. There wasn't anyone else at the field, so Caroline took her place in the outfield with Dad's old glove while Beth pitched. Eddie was good, Caroline could tell. She would have been even better if Beth had been a better pitcher. But more than not, she cracked the ball so hard that Caroline was convinced it was going right across the river. Whap! Whop! And then the ball was soaring high up in the air while Eddie gave a whoop and made a run around the ball diamond. They've got to let you be on the softball team, Eddie. You're better than some of the boys we see practicing after school. You're better than Jake Hatford. Eddie looked determined. I'm going to practice my guts out between now and March, just in case. She became pitcher next, and Beth and Caroline took turns batting the ball just so Eddie could practice getting it over the plate. Pitching a curveball, a fastball, lifting her left foot and drawing her arm far back. All you need to do now is spit, Beth laughed. Whack! Beth hit the ball straight out this time toward Eddie, and as Eddie reached up to catch it, it hit her thumb, bending it backward. Ow! Eddie howled in pain, holding her wrist with her other hand. Oh, Eddie, I'm sorry, Beth cried. Now Eddie had both hands between her knees. She was bent over with her eyes scrunched up. Oh, my hand! I'm sorry, Beth said. It's not your fault. I just hope my thumb's not broken. We'd better go home and let Dad look at it. Maybe he'll put a splint on it or something. She picked up the ball and glove. Beth got her book and they started home. They had just reached the bridge when they saw the Haver boys standing out in the road, throwing walnuts at trees along the river. When the boys saw the girls, specifically Eddie, wincing in pain, they stopped and stared. What happened? Called Josh. Don't tell them, Eddie whispered. But someone had to tell them something. You couldn't just say nothing when anyone could plainly see that Eddie was hurt. It was Beth who got the idea, however. She got bitten, Beth said. By what? A little bitty bug? Jake yelled. Eddie had started across the bridge, but Beth faced the boys. We're not sure. She went back into the bushes after a ball, and there was something there, some creature. It growled and bit her hand, and we never did see it. Beth followed Eddie across the bridge, and Caroline came last, but turned in time to see Jake and Josh and Wally and Peter staring at each other in horror.